Who was the first Mobilian? Part Indian, part European, part Spanish, part French, part English, part African. The first Mobilian, part native, part immigrant, from a place called Mobile, where the rivers merge into one unique bay, one unique blend of people built on a unique sense of place. Here the people in the place create a spirit of synthesis, a community. This communion of people and place is the underlying spirit that is the mystery of Mobile. Common to all who call Mobile home, our common link to that first Mobilian. We are Mobile. For thousands of years, long before Christopher Columbus and other Europeans discovered America, there lived a people in the deep southern delta basin along the upper Gulf of Mexico. It was a place of plenty, with rich green forest, white beaches, and mixing green and salt water, bays, and inlets. Mobile, the very name is thick with meaning and mystery. In the early 1500s, the explorers began arriving in earnest. In 1539, famed explorer De Soto sailed from Havana, Cuba, and met with the native chief leader Tuscaloosa at the village Mauvilla. This meeting of Europeans and Native Americans began both a friendship and friction that would create both descendants and death. Over 460 years later, the Battle of Mauvilla stands as the greatest Indian-European battle in American history. As the Spanish expedition spread, the French rushed explorations to the coast for a foothold in this fertile crescent. They sent a man named Iberville and his brother Bienville, and what began as their settlement, their decision on this bay of bays, is what began as a place to become Mobile. It was a cold January morning in 1702 that Bienville sailed past Dauphin Island and followed upriver, 27 miles, in search of the site for the Fort Louis, named after the Sun King. It was a cold morning on January the 20th, not unlike cold Senior Bowl games 300 years later, where the sun is bright and warms cold bones. He found a high bluff and climbed towards the sun. Here began a place and its people. The Mobilian Indians had recommended the high bluff to Bienville. It was just downstream from their village, and Bienville hoped the proximity would facilitate trade and cooperation. The bluff sloped down on either side into low river bottoms. This change in topography appealed to the French settlers, and they laid out their new city in the flat lowland, with a fort on the bluff. Iberville arrived to inspect the progress. As important as founding the capital of the French territory, Louisiana, Iberville knew that peace with the neighboring Indians was just as important. Iberville hoped the Indian allies would strengthen the French against the more formidable Spanish and British explorers. On March the 26th, he hosted a meeting with the leaders of the Choctaw and Chickasaw chieftains. With 22-year-old Bienville in charge, Iberville left, confident Mobile would be the capital of the French Empire in the New World. On the street, one heard French mixed with German, Mobilian with Indian, and West African with French, the basis of Creole. Mobile was now a part of British West Florida under the rule of Major Robert Farmer. Farmer, returning from a victorious campaign in Havana, stranded his forces on a sandbar in Mobile Bay and rode to Fort Conde, which he renamed Fort Charlotte. The Spanish crossed Dog River in 1780 as they marched toward Fort Charlotte. The two commanding officers of opposing forces shared a drink and dinner and discussed avoiding the extremities of war, to no avail. Mobile fell to the Spanish in March, as did several months later what is today the coast between Spanish Fort and Pensacola. While Spanish gradually became the official language, French laws and customs still remained too deeply rooted to be displaced. Peter Hamilton later wrote that the Spaniards were the ruling class over a French community that was bordered by Joachim Street to the west, St. Louis Street to the north, Royal Street to the east along the river, and the fort on the south. President Madison took possession of the territory in 1810 with the guidance of Commander Gaines and Federal Judge Tolman. When Mobile entered the United States in 1812, Josiah Blakely wrote that Mobile consisted of 90 homes and 20 white families of French, Spanish, American, or English descent. With a growing slave trade, cattle farms pushed into the interior of Alabama over Indian lands. The frontier exchange economy of Colonial Mobile, built through Indian trade, would soon make way for cotton as king. Mobile, Alabama in 1819 was a place of growth where Creoles and immigrants from England, Scotland, and Ireland came to make money. Large-scale cotton plantations emerged next to small-scale subsistence farming. The growth was fast and unregulated. Fort Charlotte was torn down, its debris used to raise the lots along water in St. Francis Street that flooded on a regular basis. In 1827, fire consumed most of the wood-constructed business district. And then again in 1839, leading to an ordinance requiring brick in the business district. Mobile emerged as a new city. Disasters such as fire gave way to Mobilians' earliest sense of civic purpose. 6 fire companies and other volunteer associations knitted together a diverse community. Protestants built their first church, joining the one institution that survived colonial Mobile, the Catholic Church. Private wharves and steamboats made Mobile a major city in the new cotton economy. At one time only surpassed by New Orleans and New York City. The population tripled in the winter as the active social and carnival season grew, as cotton farmers traveled south to enjoy the festivities. The Salon Society was also a fact of Mobile culture, led by Madame Levert, hosting a gathering place for writers, artists, and politicians. Mobile was the birthplace of Mardi Gras, established in 1830 by Michael Craft. It began on New Year's Eve, first as a parading merriment, then later as a secret society. The first society, the Calbellians, represented such wealth that costumes were made in Paris and shipped to Mobile. In 1856, a group of young Calbellians traveled to New Orleans to form that city's first mystic society. The cotton boom built financial and trading institutions, as the Bank of Mobile. And abundance of navigable rivers led to Mobile's prosperity. But the riverfront and bay was at this time shallow, causing lower bay docks to be used as Bienville had earlier. Mobile was a growing cosmopolitan city of oyster houses, taverns, and 42 brick cotton warehouses. Government Street symbolized the boom town, as did construction of Barton Academy, Government Street Presbyterian Church, Christ Church, the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, and Spring Hill College. Theaters and hotels flourished as visitors flooded the city. Mobile's new leadership and pursuit of individual wealth went hand in hand, and by their actions, Mobile continued to prosper. In 1860, half the workforce were immigrants, and less than 10% of Mobile's workforce owned slaves. In 1859, the Mayer family's scooter Clotilde smuggled the last slaves to the United States continent from Africa, where they settled in North Mobile and an area known as Africatown. So where was Mobile headed? At the halfway point in our journey at 150 years old, we are no longer a youthful, pioneering city. We are now at the height of influence, an important American city. Mobile has been said to be one of the 4 great Southern Gothic cities, along with New Orleans, Charleston, and Savannah. What do these cities have in common? Perhaps the social class tier that became ingrained after the Civil War, the beginning of what is known as Old Mobilians, where it was said by one visitor in 1900, "You have to live on Government Street, attend Christ Church, and go to the Strikers' Ball." Perhaps it was the experience of the Civil War itself. Mobile escaped much of the destruction of the Civil War, but not strategic importance. The Battle of Mobile Bay, where Admiral Farragut exclaimed, "Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead," is but one episode. Of note was that the last major battle of the Civil War was fought on the other side of Mobile Bay, at Blakely. By 1875, the city was unable to make payments on its $5 million debt and couldn't even make interest payments. By 1879, we were bankrupt. The yellow fever outbreak of 1897 sent many wealthy citizens to Spring Hill to escape the lowland mosquitoes. Mobilian William Gorgas helped cure yellow fever, which wiped out Mobile's competing city across the bay, Blakely. The Alabama Constitution of 1901 disenfranchised blacks and divided Mobile's melting pot by law. As a result, Davis Avenue grew into a bustling area for many successful black citizens. John LaFleur, Joe Langan, and others worked to help Mobile through these decades of conflict and resolution. The roots of the conflict are certainly traced to slavery and the failure of post-Civil War Reconstruction. Post-World War II is now the period of Second Reconstruction, where patriotism and equality issues were dominant. The 1954 Supreme Court decision of Brown versus the Board of Education began breaking down the walls of separation across the nation, and John LaFleur began breaking the walls here. Mobile, a frontier town blessed with its central location on the fertile crescent of the upper Gulf of Mexico. Mobile, a cotton town, blessed and then ravaged by the failure of an agrarian society. Mobile, the war town of riverfront prosperity. Mobile, a conservative city, politically and socially, but a town of undeniably tolerance and friendliness that is remarked by outsiders to this day. The very definition of a Mobilian is from one who has always lived here to one who loves it here. Mobile's future is atypically American, at the risk of being predictable and not unique. A place where its most unique quality is its people, their remarkable friendliness in a dog-eat-dog world. But Mobile is no longer the forgotten place with skies black with ducks, oyster beds rich in seagrass and fish. It is a pleasure greatly admired by those who come, who do not know the former beauty of a still beautiful city. And pick Mobile is their home with great excitement.